Hey guys, Chris from Propel here, and today we're going to be reviewing the Moustache Samedi 27x2. And it's by 2 because I'm number 1 and we got a number 2. So this bike's a tandem, meaning it carries 2 people. It's actually the only tandem that we carry because from my perspective, it's really the best one on the market. All right, well, I'm Chris again, and this is Ricardo.
Hi.
And Ricardo's a stoker, as it's called. This is the person that sits in the rear of a tandem. And Ricardo, you're about 5'6"?
5'6".
Or 5'6.5"?
5'6.5".
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that he usually says 5'6.5", but so this is his standard seat height, and it's something to consider. Basically, this is supposed to accommodate somebody from 5 foot to about 6 foot on the rear, and on the front, it's probably starting around 5'7", going up to about 6'4", 6'5" with the standard seat post configuration. So I just wanted to demonstrate that. It's something important to consider when thinking about a bike and thinking about the sizing, because it does come in just one frame size. It's really set up to be kind of like a mountain bike, and it's actually available in a mountain bike configuration. This one happens to be what's called the trekking configuration. So when thinking about a tandem, you might be wondering, does this make sense for me, or who does it make sense for? And from my experience, one of the real nice things about a tandem is like holding a conversation with the person you're riding with. And number 2, you have 2 people providing power. So Ricardo and I were actually riding earlier, and I found even with the power off, we were able to generate quite a bit of speed. So some of the things you might notice when initially looking at the bike is this frame. I mean, it's made to accommodate 2 people. It's really beefy. It takes a lot of inspiration from Moustache's mountain bikes, which are really heavy-duty aluminum frames, which is really important, especially when you're accommodating 2 riders on a tandem bike. Another thing when you look at it initially is you see 2 cranks, but 1 motor, and the motor's in the back. But actually, when you pedal this in the front, it will actually activate the motor in the rear. So even when you don't have a passenger, you can still ride it like an electric bike, which I found to be pretty cool. Overall, the geometry of the bike, it's relatively sporty. So you have these relatively flat bars, front and rear, a little bit of a rise. This is adjustable, so for the stoker, you can actually pull these bars a little bit closer to them. And on the front, it's a relatively standard mountain bike stem and mountain bike handlebar. So if you wanted to get a little bit more of an upright seating position, you can adjust that. But keep in mind that the more upright you go, and this is really important for a bike like this, it becomes a little bit more difficult to handle, because as you have your weight forward, you can actually control the bike a little bit better that way. And the trekking also comes with this special rack, which has these special attachment points on it. And these are made for the Ortlieb QL3 bags. And that's a special bag and a special attachment where it just clips into place. So you have these 3 points. Now, if you wanted to use more of a standard pannier bag, you can remove these and just clip on the sides. So this is the trekking configuration, which comes with the Schwalbe Supermoto X tires. They're 27.5 by 2.4 inch, and they're a balloon tire, so they can run at a relatively low pressure. The tires are mounted with tubes to the Moustache specific rims and a through axle front hub with boost spacing. This is a 12mm through axle set up on a Suntour Ion fork with 140mm of travel. Now this is overall the same configuration as the mountain version, just with more of a street tire and fender. So again, if you wanted to swap that, you can easily do so. So this one's set up with the Shimano Derailleur XT rear derailleur with a 11-42 cassette. And it has the Dynassist system, so the standard configuration, and then when you turn it on, it has this clutch, which really locks it into place. When you're riding in really rough terrain, you might want to lock this in to help to prevent the chain from bouncing around. But we'll leave this open because we're just riding around in urban areas. So the tandem comes standard with the Bosch Performance line CX motor, and they have a completely custom chain ring set up. So as you see, it's actually a dual chain ring. So we have this inner chain ring, and then we have the crank arm mounted on top of that. And that allows the tandem to actually work. And they were actually one of the first ones to use this design, and I'm really impressed by it, and it kind of shows you the sort of stuff that Moustache does. Now, in understanding how the motor works, there's three main sensors. Now, this uses a technology called pedal assist, and it uses these sensors: one, sensing how fast the pedals are moving; two, how hard they're being pedaled; and three, how fast this rear wheel is going based on the speed sensor and the magnet in the rear. The motor has a microprocessor inside. It takes these senses 1,000 times per second in order to deliver a really smooth, predictable experience. And I've really found that Bosch does one of the best jobs as far as delivering power in a very predictable way and having a real smooth onset and offset of power. So now in this tandem configuration, these gears are actually fixed, meaning that both the crank arms turn at the same rate. So you're totally in control of the rear crank arm from the front and vice versa. So you kind of have to be in sync with whoever your partner is. But that's the key to making the tandem work. If this was freewheel, they wouldn't be connected, and then this rear crank arm would be completely independent. And these both come standard with these kind of mountain bike style pedals, and they work really well, but certainly could upgrade them to any standard pedals if you'd like. Since this bike is kind of a trekking bike and you might end up taking some long excursions with it, they set it up by default with two batteries. So that's two 500 watt hour power packs, the 36 volt, 13.4 amp hours. And you can charge both the packs from this port on the other side of the bike. With these two batteries, you should see easily around 40 miles on the top level of assist, but over 100 miles on the lower level of assistance. So you can charge the batteries on or off the bike. If you wanted to remove them from the bike, there is keyholes on either of the batteries, which do use the same key. If you wanted to charge it on the bike, you just flip this little latch open and you have the charging port here. Now keep in mind that you just use this bottom port. The top one is actually disabled intentionally because that's the way that the Bosch system works. So to turn the system on, we just use the power button, which is right here on the display. This is called the Intuvia display, by the way, and it's kind of Bosch's most standard display. And we have several different readouts. One is the power of the batteries. Now this is taking the average of the two batteries. You have the miles per hour. Now if you don't see the miles per hour, that means the display is probably not firmly mounted on there, so you might want to try that again. This is the assist level, so if I hit the plus button, I can go up in the assist levels. Eco is about a 50% boost. Tour mode, that's a 100% boost. Sport mode, which is e-mountain bike mode set on this particular bike, is a dynamic mode between tour and turbo mode, which is the top level of assist. Turbo mode is about 275% assistance. So you get a varying level of assist depending on what level you select. On the first level, you could think of it in rudimentary terms, like you take one pedal revolution, the bike is taking a half on top. On turbo mode, you take one pedal revolution, the bike is taking 3 on top. It's a little bit more complex than that, but it's a good way to kind of understand it. Now if I cycle through this info mode, I can see this screen changing. Now right now on turbo mode, I'm getting 35 miles of range. Now keep in mind the batteries are down pretty low. This could be 2.5, it could be 2.99, but that's one thing that some people sometimes complain a bit about. The Intuvia is not as precise as some of the newer displays, which might have a percentage level. But if I cycle through with this I button, I get the odometer, 5.8 miles, trip distance, which I can reset by just holding this reset button down, the clock, max speed, average speed, trip time, showing both the batteries here, their levels, and the range. Again, if I wanted to, I can reset this trip distance just holding this down for a couple seconds. And one other detail on the Bosch display that's relevant to mention here is you just click this little light icon, and that's how we're going to turn the headlight and tail light on. So this is set up with the Magura MT5 brakes, and these are 4-piston calipers with 2-finger levers. We do have a little reach adjust with this bolt here, so depending on your hands, you can set it up directly for you. Kind of sporty grips here. Personally, I might go for something a little bit more ergonomic, but these work well for this particular setting. For the shifter, we have an 11-speed Shimano SLX rapid fire shifter, and it's rapid fire because we can do 3 going down and single going up, but you can do multiple at a time. And for this varying terrain, you can really shift through the gears pretty quickly. While we're up here, might want to mention we also got this little bell that comes standard. For the Magura MT5 calipers, they're quad piston, meaning there's 2 pistons on either side of the caliper, and it really provides a lot of stopping force. And these calipers are mated up to a 203 millimeter Storm HC rotor, which is a relatively thick rotor, and it really performs very well. So one other detail I think it's important to call out is this suspension seat post. This is a Suntour NCX suspension seat post, which does have some level of adjustability, just a little bit of travel, but enough to provide some nice comfort. And I should also mention that these saddles are relatively sporty, so if you did want to swap them out for something a little bit more comfort oriented, certainly a consideration. But I found them to work really well, even though they are relatively sporty, which you'll want when you're in that more forward position. Well, I really enjoyed checking this bike out with you guys. Hope you enjoyed looking at it. You know, if you ever want to check it out in person, reach out to us. I will mention that this bike's relatively popular, so we don't always have it in stock in our shops, but we usually do. So if you want to check it out, just reach out, shoot us an email, check out our website. If you have questions, you know, feel free to put some comments below or shoot us an email or give us a call. We're always happy to help, and hope you get an opportunity to check it out in person. All right, take care.